So, good afternoon. I'm enjoying a cup of coffee, and I decided to have an interesting conversation. Coffee with a straw, yes. An interesting conversation, given that it's Women's Month. I thought I'd have a chat about some women's issues with some men. So, first up, I decided to ask Tiamo a couple of questions. And I think it's quite important that we speak about some of these things. I think in society, it's perceived as topics that just kind of happen, but they actually don't. So, Tiamo, I did tell you that we were going to speak about an issue that, in particular, I mentioned to you last week that your school has a drive around sanitary towels. And I asked him if he knew about it. And he said, no, well, they haven't communicated anything. It was just kind of put on the hub. So obviously if learners access that portal, they'd know about it. But nonetheless, I told him about it. So which got me thinking around the topic of menstruals, or the period, or the red train. There's so many names that it goes by. So I think first up, I want to ask you, what do you think when maybe one of your friends says they're having their period? Or is it even something that you guys discuss?
They just say, oh, I'm on my period.
Okay, dude, you like really soft. So you can...
No, like, we did talk about it.
Okay, so you guys talk about it, but like, what do you guys say? Or when, because obviously there's girls, there's guys, and what is the conversation generally like? Or is it just sort of like, I don't feel well, it's my period? And then what's your response as boys to the concerns that girls have to deal with?
Well, I don't know, it's just a natural thing between my friends and I. Like, if someone will say, oh no, I started my period today and my stomach is sore, and it's like, okay. Or if someone says, do you have painkillers because I'm on my period? But, yeah, there's no big hoo-ha about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, well, between my friends and I, there's no big deal about it because it's natural. So,
Okay, when you say natural, what do you mean?
like, it happens, so there's no need to make a fuss about it. Yeah.
Okay, why do you feel like, so in your friend circle, there's not a need to make a fuss about it because it is something that happens to them? Do you think that's a concept that most boys share at school?
Not really. Well, I'm not sure about most boys, but the boys I know, like, there's not really a fuss about it because for us, just like everyone else, it's a bodily function. So we all have bodily functions, so there's really no reason to make a big deal out of something that shouldn't even be a big deal.
Right, so in your setting, that's quite encouraging to know that you guys openly embrace the fact that young women have this monthly cycle that could disrupt their day-to-day activities. And with that disruption, I kind of want to ask, what do you think the disruption does to a young woman's schooling? Or how do you think it impacts it at all?
Well, I think a bit, not completely, but a bit. For people who do have like the means to, or they have access to sanitary towels and everything needed for their menstrual cycle, I think that it doesn't affect them that much. Yes, there could be that emotional imbalance or whatever, but they aren't staying home because they're on their period, because they have pads, they have tampons, they have everything that they need. But at home, and the school doesn't really provide it, so I feel that for me personally, like the people that I know, it doesn't really affect them because they have access to sanitary towels. So, yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about access in an underprivileged setting?
in underprivileged settings, there is no access to, or there's hardly anything available for them. So many girls miss school because they don't have sanitary towels. So they just don't go to school because they stay home because they don't know when their flow is going to happen. So in underprivileged areas, there is that problem of girls missing out on school because there is no access to stuff needed on their period, and I think that could change. Governments could honestly make it available in public schools, could make sanitary towels available, because it's just the bare minimum.
Okay, so when you say flow, what do you understand when you say they don't know when their flow is going to happen? Like, in your mind, what do you think that means?
The bloodshed. Yeah.
Yeah, the bloodshed. But what do you think that is in that a young girl, woman is experiencing? What is that flow? The uterus lining. You being
from
all
their body.
you being all biology, life sciencey, reproductive-y on me. What do you think that the girls experience when they have a flow?
Pain. That's what everyone says. It's painful.
Yeah, yes, there's pain.
Because,
what else? Why do you think sanitary towels is such a necessity if it's a flow?
Because it's blood coming out of your vagina. So I think sanitary towels are important because now you can't just have blood leaking out everywhere. Well, not leaking out everywhere, but it helps. It's hygienic. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay, so it helps. But do you think that this flow that you're speaking about, do you think that boys have a concept of what the flow is? No. And I ask this because I find it quite interesting whenever we have to deal with the reproductive system in skills teaching, and we always ask the boys, okay, so how would you know if a woman has a heavy menstrual or a regular menstrual, and is there even a difference? Is there such a thing as a difference in flow for me versus another young woman? Do you think that is? What do you guys think the flow is, and how long do you think it exists for or lasts for?
For everyone it's different. That's what I know. For everyone it's different. Because like some of my friends will be like, "Yo, my flow was heavy yesterday," and some people will be like, "No, I don't really need that much. I got my period." So yeah.
Okay, so what when I say there's different types of flow, what do you understand for those that say they've got a heavy flow?
A lot of blood came out.
A lot of blood. And what do you think that does to them on a physical, emotional level, social?
Well, physically, it's probably very painful. Like the stomach cramps are very sore because now your body's releasing more blood, so you're cramping for longer. And then on an emotional level, be very emotional. Well, not very emotional, but like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, you feel more.
Okay, on a social level, how do you think this impacts someone that's experiencing a menstrual cycle on a social level?
In terms of your friends.
Just anyone, like the friends, like what do you feel, or what do you think their experience is like on a social level when they are on their menstrual?
I feel, well, not secluded, but like they're in their own space because,
They're in their own space, so they kind of withdraw
a bit,
a bit. Why do you think they withdraw?
But not everyone, because like, most of my friends are different. Most of them will just be like, okay, they're on their period. Some will be more withdrawn because now it's just, there's that pain and there's the hormones acting up and everything. So
Do you think all of it is blamed on hormones? Why else would you think a young woman on a menstrual would want to withdraw from social interaction?
they feel embarrassed about it because it's not something that's spoken of a lot.
Yeah, so there's some embarrassment around it, some of these stigma issues, but also I think what especially for young women that bleed quite a lot, what people in social circles don't necessarily understand is that maybe with regard to their bleeding, they're withdrawing because accidents happen. They'd rather just be in a space where they can control themselves. And so those are the realities. If it happens in a class, you actually don't want to come to school because you might have a sanitary towel on, but your flow is so heavy that you're leaking through your uniform. So in light of the drive that your school has, what's the boys' participation like?
I don't think anyone still knows that we have on the drive.
And why do you think it's not a conversation that, as boys, you kind of huddle together and say, okay, guys, the school's having this drive, whether you found out from it from your parents or whether you actually read it on your school communication, why are boys not driving this particular cause knowing that it could empower a young woman to go to school for longer or miss less days of school if she has access to sanitary towels?
Well, I feel for most boys it's just a thing of like they only do it once they know about it or once there's like proper communication about it, and because like no one really knows about the drive that's happening right now. Like a lot of boys aren't really contributing. But yeah, even just in general the boys' contribution towards it, I think it's low because it doesn't affect the boys personally, so it's like okay, it's nothing that they really have to worry about. So unless they relate to it, then they only help out because it affects them as well.
Mm-hmm. So, having grown up in a house full of, or family full of women, there's a lot of women in this house, and family, not just my house, but like our family. We can count the amount of boys that there are. Would you say in your upbringing something about, or the menstrual cycle was something that you knew about because it was spoken about freely?
No, not really.
Not
You
really.
guys didn't speak about it.
Yeah, we didn't speak about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's most probably why I am having this conversation, because I think it was sort of like a little light bulb that yes, there's all these issues that we are experiencing outside, but how do we bring it to the fore? And it can only become something that is highlighted if we're highlighted in the household already, so it's not the fact that, oh well, if the mom or the sister is on her cycle, that the brother and the dad doesn't know, because then we're not normalizing this. Because when you grow up and you have a girlfriend and you have a wife and you have a daughter, it's not the woman's responsibility to make sure that she's looked after in that facet. So she could need you to go to the shop. Mom could be sick or at work or out on business, and as a dad you need to be able to go and get your daughter's sanitary supplies. So how do you think this conversation can happen better in a household?
Just talk about it. Like, yeah, just talk about it, because like I said, like it's nothing that you should be making a big deal out of, because it's a natural thing that happens. So just like how you need underwear, you need pads, So if someone says, okay, I'm on my period, so if I need to buy so and so and so, then it really shouldn't be, or you shouldn't feel like you now have to go out of your way to be buying pads, because it's a necessity. So,
So it's same like underwear, you need sanitary towels. So you're saying
yeah.
it shouldn't be an issue for men to be able to go out and buy so and so and so. So lastly, in wrapping up, I want to know, do you know some of those so and so and so's? So if you had to go to the shop, what options are there for women on their menstruals?
There is a pad, there is a tampon, there is a menstrual cup, there is, what else is there? I think that's all.
Okay, and in terms of sanitary towels, what options are there? So the reason why I'm asking is because I'm on an occasion I've had to send daddy to the shop to go buy me, and it's like this call that you get back, like, what am I supposed to buy? There's things with wings, it says long, extra long, it's got drops on it, like, what are you supposed to buy? And so this is the thing that, as men should also be educated around what are the products that are out there for women. And it shouldn't be something that if your spouse, sister, mother, daughter is on a menstrual, that you almost feel like you need to run away from the issue for that week. Not wanting to be around. Find out what are the ways that you can comfort, soothe, provide a little bit of extra nurturing during that time, whether it is bringing that hot water bottle, asking them if you can get them something for their back, because their back aches. If you need to run out to the shop to go get a painkiller, some Nurophens or something, do they have enough sanitary towels? Normalize the conversation so that it doesn't seem so odd when it does happen in the household. And also, like I said, I think the biggest contribution that men could make in the household is to be able to support women when they go through this process. So don't just shrug your shoulders and go, it's that moody season again, it's PMS, it's the red train, and kind of withdraw because there's the hormones are raging now. It's not just about the hormones. Sometimes it's just about the uncomfortable experience that women have that in this whole process, and then you don't have support, and it makes it 10 times worse. So I think as gentlemen, young men growing up as well, to be able to nurture your friends, your lady friends at school, when someone says they're on their period, or if they've mentioned it on Monday and they look a bit groggy, maybe tomorrow take the hot water bottle with them just as a kind gesture, or ask them if they're fine. But it's the concern that is more comforting, and some of the gestures that would normalize this conversation versus just blaming it all on hormones and hoping it's a conversation that just passes and that you don't really have to deal with it because it's not a male issue. What do you think boys can do from their side in a schooling system to normalize the conversation?
In a school environment, I think we should have pad drives, but the girls shouldn't bring pads. It should just be the boys to bring pads during those drives, because then that also just shows how many of the boys actually are there to support the girls during the time. So I feel like if we have pad drives, we should say no, the girls shouldn't bring pads. If you want to, then yes, but make it a boy thing to do, and also like you were saying, provide comfort for your friends, and also just speak about it freely. We shouldn't have to feel embarrassed to speak about it. So as boys, we should start speaking about it more freely, so that the conversations can be normalized. So that even if it pops up into a conversation, it's not a big thing of, you're on your period, or that, that's disgusting. Just speak about it, because
Okay, so lastly I want to ask, so obviously some of these topics you would have dealt with in life sciences, but not every child takes life sciences in high school as a subject through where you might have dealt with the reproductive system a little bit more intense. So do you feel like something like menstruation should be a topic that exists in life orientation?
Because it should exist in LO, because it's part of life. So why is there a reason to only be speaking about it in biology because it's biological? Because there's a lot of things that are biological that we speak about in our lives. So there shouldn't be a reason to have to hide the conversation or hide the topic of menstruation.
Okay, so I hope you guys found this interesting. It's one of many. Join me in the next few days when I chat to my hubby and some other ladies or friends of ours, hubbies, partners, and find out what the menstrual conversation has been like in some of our marriages, if even the conversation has been there. So join me, and I hope you find this informative, and happy Women's Month.